6 facts the Air Force won't tell you about the B-21 Raider's transition from experimental prototype to America's primary weapon of war. After 30 years in the shadows, this stealth bomber is reshaping global military power in ways that might shock even seasoned veterans. You served your country, so you understand what it means when the Pentagon classifies something so deeply that Congress can't see the full picture. The B-21 Raider represents exactly that level of secrecy, and for good reason. This isn't just another aircraft rolling off the production line, it's the most advanced strategic bomber ever conceived, designed specifically to penetrate Chinese and Russian airspace when conventional deterrence fails. Right now, as you're listening to this, the second B-21 has completed its maiden flight from Edwards Air Force Base, while the first aircraft, nicknamed Cerberus, continues flight testing at least twice weekly. But what the Air Force publicly celebrates as routine test flights masks a fundamental transformation happening behind closed doors at Plant 42 in Palmdale, California. The transition from prototype to production weapon represents one of the most complex engineering challenges in modern military history. Unlike the troubled F-35 program that plagued headlines for years, the B-21 is exceeding digital model expectations while maintaining unprecedented operational secrecy. But that success comes with hidden costs that would make any budget-conscious veteran's head spin. Let's start with what they're actually building. The B-21 Raider isn't just the B-2 Spirit's younger brother, it's a fundamental reimagining of strategic bombing for an era when stealth technology has proliferated to potential adversaries. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin called it the first new bomber for the Air Force in over 30 years. But that undersells its revolutionary design philosophy. Unlike every previous bomber in Air Force history, the B-21 was designed from day one with Indo-Pacific command operations in mind. Translation: this aircraft exists primarily to fight China. Former Air Force Secretary Deborah Lee James put it bluntly when she said, "We needed a new bomber for the 21st century that would allow us to take on much more complicated threats, like the threats that we fear we would one day face from China and Russia." The aircraft's flying wing configuration mirrors the B-2, but that's where similarities end. The B-21 is smaller, lighter, and incorporates 6th-generation technology that won't appear in fighter aircraft for another decade. Most importantly, it's designed for production scalability, something the B-2 program catastrophically failed to achieve. Remember the B-2's production nightmare? 21 aircraft for $44 billion, making each bomber cost roughly $2 billion in today's money. The program became a cautionary tale about designing aircraft without considering manufacturing realities. The B-21 takes the opposite approach, prioritizing production efficiency from initial design phases. Northrop Grumman invested over $5 billion in digital engineering and manufacturing infrastructure before cutting metal on the first aircraft. This isn't just computer-aided design, it's a complete digital twin of the manufacturing process that allows engineers to identify and solve production problems before they occur on the factory floor. Software certification time has already been reduced by 50%, and the aircraft continue to outperform digital model expectations. But here's what they're not telling you about the production reality. The current price tag sits around $700 million per aircraft, making it roughly one-third the cost of a B-2. That sounds like a victory until you understand how Northrop Grumman is absorbing massive losses to meet those numbers. The company has revealed losses exceeding $2 billion on the B-21 program. The most recent loss, reported at $477 million, stems from manufacturing process changes and increased material costs. CEO Kathy Warden admitted that due to the fixed-price contract signed back in 2015, total losses could reach $1.2 billion amid high inflation and workforce disruptions. That loss is now a realized pre-tax charge of $1.56 billion. Think about that. Northrop Grumman is essentially subsidizing America's strategic bomber program to the tune of billions of dollars. Warden candidly stated, "We certainly have changed our view on bidding of contracts where we did not have a mature design at the point of bid, and yet we committed to fixed-price options into the future. And we have, to my knowledge, not done that again." This financial reality reveals the hidden complexity of transitioning from prototype to production weapon. Unlike experimental aircraft where cost overruns are expected, production contracts demand predictable pricing for budget planning. The Air Force secured a favorable deal by locking in 2015 prices, but that forced Northrop to absorb inflation costs and manufacturing challenges that emerged during the development phase. The production acceleration announced in February 2026 adds another layer of complexity. The Air Force and Northrop Grumman finalized an agreement to expand annual manufacturing capacity by 25% using $4.5 billion in congressionally authorized funding. On paper, this represents confident program management. In reality, it's a calculated gamble on unproven manufacturing processes. General Dale White, Director of Critical Major Weapons Systems, called this what disciplined acquisition delivers. But veterans know that accelerating production before completing testing violates basic acquisition principles. The B-21 operates under special exemptions from laws that typically require extensive testing before large-scale production. Critics argue this approach could lead to costly design flaws discovered after hundreds of aircraft are already built. The Air Force justifies this risk by pointing to the B-21's unique classification status. As a highly sensitive program managed under special access protocols, it's exempt from traditional major defense acquisition program requirements. Translation: normal oversight rules don't apply because the program is too secret for standard review processes. This creates a fascinating paradox. The very secrecy that protects the B-21's operational advantages also shields the program from the budget scrutiny that typically prevents acquisition disasters. Senate Armed Services Committee members led by John McCain once objected to this lack of transparency, but were overruled by national security considerations. Meanwhile, the testing program proceeds at Edwards Air Force Base under conditions of unprecedented operational security. The first B-21 Cerberus has required minimal software modifications while flying sorties at least twice weekly. Tom Jones reported being very pleased with both test results and testing cadence, but specific performance metrics remain classified. Key refueling tests are now underway, representing critical milestones toward 2027 operational delivery. Air Force Secretary Troy Mike emphasized that arrival of the second test aircraft allows them to expedite critical evaluations of mission systems and weapons capabilities. But what those capabilities actually include remains largely classified. We know the B-21 will carry the AGM-181 Long-Range Standoff Strategic Nuclear Cruise Missile, B-61 Mod 12 and Mod 13 nuclear bombs, and conventional ordnance including AGM-158 JASSMER cruise missiles. General Gabarra reported that our LRSO missile, which will go on our bomber force, has had 4 successful flight tests in 2025 alone. But the full weapons integration timeline and operational capabilities remain undisclosed. The secrecy extends to basic aircraft specifications. You cannot even see the B-21's engines in any public photograph. Experts believe it uses 2 highly advanced engines, but the technology to embed engines and muffle their heat signature represents some of the most prized secrets in aerospace engineering. Exact stealth characteristics, radar cross-section data, and autonomous capabilities remain completely classified. This level of classification reflects hard lessons learned from previous stealth programs. The F-117's operational details remained secret for over a decade, allowing it to maintain strategic surprise. The B-2's capabilities were more widely disclosed, potentially compromising its operational effectiveness. The B-21 program appears determined to maintain operational security even after aircraft enter service. Infrastructure preparation reveals the scale of transition planning. Ellsworth Air Force Base completed a $129.5 million runway upgrade in December 2025, using 106,000 tons of concrete specifically designed for B-21 operations. The total infrastructure cost likely reaches $1.5 to $1.7 billion across nearly 3 dozen construction projects. During runway closure, 17 B-1B Lancers relocated to Grand Forks Air Force Base, maintaining operational capability throughout the transition. This infrastructure investment reflects long-term strategic planning beyond simple aircraft replacement. The B-21 isn't just replacing aging bombers, it's enabling entirely new operational concepts. Original acquisition documents specified capability for both manned and unmanned operations, suggesting future autonomous missions that could revolutionize strategic bombing. The production timeline reveals ambitious goals that challenge conventional acquisition wisdom. Low-rate initial production began in January 2024, with first operational delivery targeted for 2027. About 8,000 Northrop Grumman employees work on the program, with more than 400 suppliers across at least 40 states. This industrial base represents a strategic asset that must be maintained regardless of short-term financial losses. Fleet-size discussions reveal ongoing debates about strategic requirements. The Air Force officially plans to buy approximately 100 B-21s, but senior officers increasingly advocate for larger numbers. General Thomas Basier testified that 220 bombers would likely be needed to meet requirements. Given plans to retain 75 upgraded B-52Js, this would require at least 145 B-21s. Defense analysts Mark Gunzinger and Rebecca Grant advocate for even larger numbers, potentially 200 to 400 B-21s with a second production site. Their reasoning reflects harsh mathematical realities of strategic bombing. If the B-21 represents America's primary penetrating strike capability against peer adversaries, losing even a small percentage to enemy action could compromise mission success. The financial implications stagger any budget-conscious analysis. 100 B-21s at $700 million each represent $70 billion in procurement costs alone. The Air Force estimates spending $203 billion over 30 years to develop, purchase, and operate the complete fleet. For context, that exceeds the entire annual defense budget of most NATO allies. But these costs must be weighed against strategic alternatives. Conventional strike options against heavily defended targets require massive force packages with uncertain success probabilities. Hypersonic weapons offer speed but limited payload capacity. Only penetrating stealth bombers provide reliable capability to hold high-value targets at risk deep inside enemy territory. The B-21's transition from prototype to production weapon ultimately represents a fundamental shift in how America projects strategic power. Unlike previous bombers designed for nuclear deterrence missions, the B-21 explicitly prioritizes conventional operations in contested environments. This reflects strategic recognition that future conflicts may begin with conventional operations before escalating to nuclear exchange. Current production acceleration suggests confidence in the aircraft's performance, but also reveals urgency about strategic timelines. The 2027 operational deadline isn't arbitrary. It reflects intelligence assessments about when America might need these capabilities for real-world operations. Security concerns around Plant 42 illustrate the challenges of maintaining operational security during transition to production. Officials report individuals walking dogs along perimeter fences at 3:30 a.m. carrying high-resolution cameras, highlighting persistent foreign intelligence collection efforts. The surrounding area provides ideal observation positions for anyone seeking technical intelligence about America's most sensitive aircraft program. Digital engineering breakthroughs represent genuine acquisition innovations that other programs will likely adopt. The ability to identify and solve manufacturing problems before they occur on production lines could revolutionize defense contracting. But these benefits come with unprecedented upfront investment costs that few contractors can absorb. The B-21's designation as the world's first sixth-generation aircraft reflects technological capabilities that won't fully emerge until the aircraft enters operational service. Unlike fighter aircraft where sixth-generation features remain conceptual, the B-21 demonstrates these technologies in flying hardware today. Looking ahead, the transition from prototype to production weapon raises fundamental questions about American strategic posture. Will 100 B-21s provide sufficient capability against peer adversaries? Can the industrial base sustain production at required rates? How will operational security be maintained as fleet size grows? The answers remain classified, but the trajectory is clear. The B-21 Raider represents America's commitment to maintaining strategic bombing capability regardless of cost or technical challenge. For veterans who understand the stakes of strategic competition, this aircraft embodies the same determination that drove previous generations to develop game-changing military capabilities when national survival was at stake. The transition from experimental prototype to operational weapons system continues, shrouded in necessary secrecy but driven by urgent strategic requirements. The Air Force isn't telling us everything about the B-21 Raider because some secrets are worth keeping, especially when they determine who controls the skies in the next major conflict.